The Desert of Deceit, the Great American Diamond Hoax. Imagine a bank vault in the booming city of San Francisco, the air thick with the smell of cigar smoke and fresh gold. It is 1872. Two weather-beaten, dust-covered prospectors walk into the prestigious Bank of California. They look entirely out of place among the silk-suited bankers. Reluctantly, almost nervously, they hand over a heavy canvas sack to the teller for safekeeping. When the bank's president, William Ralston, demands to see what these rough men are hiding, the sack is untied. Out tumbles a cascade of rough diamonds, glittering rubies, emeralds, and sapphires. In an instant, the room freezes. The California gold rush was legendary, but this was the promise of an empire. What the bankers did not know, and what the brightest minds in America would fail to realize for months, was that this bag of gems was the bait for the most audacious, spectacular, and utterly fabricated scam in United States history. The architects of the illusion. The two scruffy men were Philip Arnold and John Slack. They were not brilliant masterminds with degrees from Ivy League universities. They were cousins from Kentucky with a background in bookkeeping and minor mining operations. Yet they possessed a profound understanding of human greed. They knew that in post-Civil War America, a nation hungry for wealth and expansion, the prospect of a massive gem field could blind even the sharpest businessmen. Arnold and Slack had quietly traveled to London and Amsterdam months prior, using their life savings of around $50,000 to purchase low-grade, uncut industrial gems. They didn't need flawless diamonds, they just needed enough sparkle to plant a seed of unimaginable wealth. They brought this secret stash back to the United States and began their performance. After dropping the sack at the Bank of California, the rumors spread like wildfire. William Ralston, a titan of West Coast finance, took the bait whole. Ralston was a man who had built empires, and he was determined to control what he believed was the greatest discovery since El Dorado. Hooking the titans of industry. Ralston and an eccentric millionaire named Asbury Harpending cornered Arnold and Slack. The cousins played their parts perfectly. They acted guarded, unsophisticated, and completely unaware of the true value of their discovery. When pressed for the location of the diamond fields, they refused to say, claiming it was in a remote, hostile territory controlled by Native Americans. Eventually, the cousins relented, agreeing to take a few representatives to the site, on the condition that the inspectors be blindfolded for the final leg of the journey. Harpending and his associates were led on a dizzying, intentionally confusing trek through the rugged terrain of the American West. When the blindfolds were finally removed in a remote corner of Wyoming, the men looked down at the earth. To their absolute astonishment, the ground was literally sparkling. They fell to their knees, digging out diamonds, rubies, and sapphires with their bare hands and pocket knives. It was a chaotic frenzy of greed. What the tycoons didn't know was that Arnold and Slack had spent weeks carefully salting the mesa. They had painstakingly pushed the cheap, uncut gems into anthills, wedged them into the forks of trees, and buried them just beneath the topsoil to make it look like the earth itself was sweating jewels. The stamp of the experts. The San Francisco tycoons were convinced, but they needed East Coast validation to raise the massive capital required to mine the area. They took a sample of the gems to New York City to meet with the ultimate authority on jewelry, Charles Tiffany, the founder of Tiffany Co. Tiffany examined the stones. Perhaps blinded by the sheer volume or unfamiliar with raw, unpolished gems in their natural state, he declared the sample to be worth a staggering $150,000, millions in today's money. With Tiffany's blessing, the investors brought in Henry Janin, the most respected mining engineer in the country. Janin traveled to the secret site, surveyed the salted mesa, and declared it a geological miracle. He estimated the field would yield millions of dollars in gems every month. The trap was fully sprung.
Ralston, Harpending, and a syndicate of wealthy investors paid Arnold and Slack approximately $600,000, roughly $15 million today, for the rights to the field. The cousins quietly took their fortune and vanished. The unraveling of the web. The hoax might have lasted for years if not for a sharp-eyed government geologist named Clarence King. King and his team had been independently mapping the 40th parallel. When he heard the rumors and triangulated the secret location based on the weather and terrain descriptions of Janin's expedition, he became suspicious. Geologically speaking, finding diamonds, which form deep in the Earth's mantle, sitting right next to rubies and emeralds, which form in entirely different geological conditions, in the same loose topsoil, was scientifically impossible. King led a small team to the site in late 1972. At first, they too found gems, but then King noticed something strange. Some of the gems had microscopic artificial cut marks on them. Furthermore, the gems were only found on the surface. The moment they dug deeper than an inch or two, there was absolutely nothing. The final damning piece of evidence was found by a team member who picked up a diamond and realized it had a tiny speck of European jeweler's wax stuck to it. The mesa wasn't a miracle, it was a meticulously crafted stage. The aftermath. Clarence King raced back to San Francisco and exposed the fraud, instantly becoming a national hero and cementing his reputation as one of America's greatest scientists. The financial syndicate collapsed in humiliation. William Ralston was completely disgraced. As for the architects of the illusion, John Slack disappeared entirely, rumor having it that he gambled away his share and died a coffin maker in New Mexico. Philip Arnold returned to Kentucky, bought a large farm, and lived in luxury. Because the laws around fraud in the wild frontier were murky, and because the embarrassed tycoons wanted to avoid a highly publicized trial, Arnold was only forced to return a small portion of his stolen wealth. He lived out his days as a wealthy man, having executed the greatest con the American West had ever seen.